Hello, I'm Julie, and I'm going to share the concept of social responsibility. Social responsibility is a set of obligations an organization has to protect and enhance the societal context in which it functions. I believe this concept should be integrated into all businesses because there should always be an awareness of the effects on the external environments, especially with the expansive growth of globalization. However, according to John Mackey, co-founder of Whole Foods Market, when a business creates value for its major stakeholders, which communities and the environment are considered as such, it is acting in a socially responsible way already. With a more educated and sophisticated public emerging, their expectations have vastly grown for the need of a socially responsible aspect from modern corporations. These expectations come a couple of reasons as to why an awareness and application should be made. The thought that an organization should be included in solving external issues like depleting resources and environmental pollution came from the fact that the same organization created some of those problems. There is a concern, however, that an organization may not have the aptitude or knowledge to facilitate decisions made for a social agenda. The most obvious reason to me for applying this concept is because many of the organizations have a superfluous amount of money. This money could have been placed into an effort to resolve many issues. But then one has to ask, where would that money have gone otherwise? The supposed superfluous amount of money may have gone into the pockets of owners, so the dispute against social responsibility is considerable. So what if an organization wanted to participate in social responsibility? Well, a careful approach to planning and decision-making needs to be made, and that organization needs to decide what it would like to stand for and where it would like it to go. The consideration and evaluation of the decision should be treated as a key task for the organization. Planet Fitness actually took an approach to participating in social responsibility. The company has always been an advocate on being judgment-free, and it sought to bring that viewpoint to communities. In a relationship with Boys and Girls Club of America and an organization called Stomp Out Bullying, Planet Fitness was able to introduce a program called the Judgment-Free Generation. Through education curriculums in schools and online, the objective was to reduce and possibly prevent bullying to children. Through this education, there was a hope that school absenteeism would decline by dissuading the ever-increasing violence plaguing many school systems. The program promotes social inclusion and acceptance, and upon announcing the program, Planet Fitness allocated the entirety of reduced enrollment fees for a certain time period to the cause. This also encouraged the public to be a part of the judgment-free outlook for themselves as well by becoming members in a judgeless environment. Volkswagen, on the other hand, failed its approach to social responsibility. While the company was casting itself as an environmental advocate, it was actually committing greenwashing. Greenwashing is when a company portrays and markets itself as environmentally friendly when it actually is not. Its cars were giving off more pollutants than legally acceptable due to the company's engineers manipulating engines with software that defrauded emissions tests. All of those fabricated past tests were allowing cars to excessively pollute the air. So I have to ask myself, was this organization's culture skewed? John Mackey states corporate social responsibility is independent of corporate purpose or culture. I understand the purpose aspect, but I believe a good code of ethics should have come into play at some point. I would assume Volkswagen's culture was established, and if this unethical behavior was accepted, then to me, Volkswagen set the path to fail at creating value for those stakeholders Mr. Mackey speaks of. Could this just have been a consequence of reactive change to an attempt to keep up with other organizations? Or did the organization fail within its dimensions of managing the chosen social responsibility? Thank you.
Although there are several companies like Volkswagen that fail to take their part in social responsibility concepts, there are even more companies similar to Planet Fitness that do indeed want to give back to their communities. Not only does this create a more attractive image of the company, which makes consumers more likely to keep consuming the goods and services, but it also makes the customers feel safer because they know the companies are and will be reliable when there are times of need. For example, there is Box Lunch, a company that helps provide meals for people in need for every $10 spent, all while guaranteeing that there will be a minimum of 1.6 million donated meals by the end of each year. Also, the very well-known handcrafted Pura Vida bracelets from Costa Rica help fund over 190 charities itself. Thirdly, there is Tom's, a shoe company that promises to give away a pair of shoes for every purchased pair. Currently, the United States has suffered from a few excruciating natural disasters such as Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma. So one can't help but ask, who is responsible for helping? Of course the government should play a huge role in the reconstruction of the destroyed areas, and many individuals will also donate money through organizations designed on the basis of helping areas after natural disasters such as the Red Cross. However, many believe that large and small companies both should be held responsible for helping the affected areas because it is the organization's social responsibility. This goes along the lines of 2 points that the textbook states as arguments for social responsibility. They state the following. 1. Because organizations are legally defined entities with the most of the same privileges as private citizens, businesses should not try to avoid their obligations as citizens. And second, many businesses often have surplus revenues that would be used to help solve social problems. Focusing on both hurricanes, there has been an estimated combined cost of $144 billion worth of damages in the United States alone. Corporate donations poured in immediately after Harvey hit, totaling about $160 million, and donations only kept increasing after Irma crossed the southeastern coast. One can see that no matter what type of business a certain organization has, they all come together to help the community. Walmart has committed to donating up to $30 million to hurricane relief. United Healthcare announced a donation of $1 million to Irma relief and also a 2-to-1 match for employee donations. It previously promised $4.3 million in cash and medicines after Harvey. Disney, pledging $2.5 million in humanitarian aid for Florida, the Caribbean, and other places hit by Irma, says that it raised up almost $16 million for Harvey relief. There are several other companies that have donated, but these 3 organizations show just how committed some of these companies are to helping their communities. Although there are several arguments against social responsibility, such as the purpose of a business in the U.S. Society is to generate profit for owners, one can see that ethics are indeed associated with individuals, especially top managers and shareholders, because we all want to come together and help the people in need. There are a few companies that have seen drastic losses, and some people refuse to purchase from these businesses since they aren't helping the affected areas. So I believe it's time to make a few organizational changes, which brings us to our second topic.
Organization change does not deal with personal change or creation of a new organization. It simply focuses on what has happened inside an existing organization and its environment. The major areas of organization change are people, organizational structure and design, and technology and operations. Within the people category, you find changes such as abilities and skills, performance, and attitude and values. Within the organizational structure and design category, there are changes such as job design and authority distribution. And lastly, within the area of technology and operation, there are changes such as information technology, equipment, and control systems. Forces for these changes can be external and internal forces. External forces come from the organization's general and task environment. The task environment is considered to be a powerful force for change due to its competitors. Competitors have a large influence on an organization through their price structure and product line. For example, if Shell lowers the price of their gas, then a BP across the street will be influenced to also lower their price of gas. Internal forces are forces that happen within an organization. Internal forces can cause an organization to change its structure and strategy and can be a response to an external force. An example of internal force can be an old manager being replaced with a new manager. Organization change can also be split up into planned change and reactive change. Planned change is designed and implemented in an orderly and timely fashion in anticipation of future events. Reactive change is a response to events as they develop. The steps of organization change is recognition of the need of the change, establishment of goals for the change, diagnosis of relevant variables, selection of appropriate change technique, planning for implementation of the change, actual implementation, and evaluation and follow-up. Now Lindsay will discuss a current event for organization change.
There are many factors that go into consideration when an organization is deciding whether to implement organizational change or not. In April of 2017, J.Crew announced their need for substantial organizational change in their corporate structure. J.Crew announced a new Chief Merchandising Officer, Lisa Greenwald, a new Chief Designing Officer, Somsek Sigamong, a new president of the Madwell brand, Libby Waddell. They also announced that their president, Michael Nicholson, will also assume the responsibilities of the primary functions of the J.Crew brand. It is said that J.Crew is now doing things differently, moving faster than before. These changes in employees represent the company undergoing organizational change, which can be attributed to either external or internal factors. The main factor pushing this decision for restructuring is the external force of the retail environment. Recently, there had been a large demand for convenience, personalized shopping experiences, and increased speed to market. J.Crew has identified this external force for change and is reacting in a reactive manner. Their decisions are examples of reactive change because they are implementing organizational change as the retail market develops rather than before the retail market had begun to change. J.Crew not only restructured their corporate officers, they also laid off 150 full-time employees and 100 open positions. This workforce reduction will result in around $30 million pre-tax savings. However, this organizational change decision is facing much resistance because of the ethics surrounding the amount of people being laid off. J.Crew does have a plan to reduce this resistance. They plan on incurring $10 million in severance costs and termination costs, which is an example of engaging in facilitation and communication to minimize resistance to organizational change. J.Crew ultimately will better their company and have a better chance to survive in the constantly changing retail environment with these reactive changes made in their corporate and employee structure, despite the resistance they will need to overcome. Drexler, an insider at J.Crew, said, "At J.Crew, we are embracing this change and making necessary adjustments to our business and teams to move us forward in a more efficient and dynamic way. We have an incredibly talented team of passionate leaders and will further leverage their strengths and talents as we continue to focus on making critical improvements to our business." Thank you.
As we learned from Julie, social responsibility is an organization's obligation to protect the society in which it functions. If an organization truly cares about being socially responsible, they will make it a key task to decide what specifically the organization wants to support. Chick-fil-A, for example, is a family-operated business that thrives off of Christian values, great chicken, and relationships. Chick-fil-A is so dedicated to the relationship sector of the business that this year they awarded just under $9 million to team members' college educations. Another example we heard from Vanessa is that Tom's Shoe Company donates a pair of shoes for every pair purchased. Raquel delved into organizational change, and as she stated, organizational change focuses on what is happening inside an existing organization and their environment. The steps of organizational change include recognition that change is needed, forming goals to execute the change, the diagnosis of relevant variables, selecting the best manner in which to make the changes, planning for implementation of change, actual implementation, and the evaluation of the changes. McKinsey surveyed about 3,000 executives and learned that only 1 in 3 organizational changes actually succeed. Rich Lyons, the contributor of the Forbes article, writes that the 3 common reasons as to why organizational change does not succeed are that leaders lack commitment, culture change never translates to performance, and culture change lacks distinction and flexibility. Lindsay provided us with a great example of an organization that was mostly successful with their change, J.Crew. J.Crew acknowledged that there is a change in the retail market, and their decision to partake in organizational change is an example of reactive change. Due to the amount of employees laid off due to the organizational change, there have been questions surrounding the ethics of the business. It seems that no matter what decisions a business makes, there will always be pushback and criticism. We hope you have enjoyed our take on social responsibility and organizational change. We enjoyed collaborating and have learned so much during the Principles of Management course this fall.